My name is Jose Comboni. I'm a senior software engineer at Microsoft, working with Yammer. Today we're going to be talking about how to build social enterprise applications using Yammer as a platform. So, as you know, one of the key features on any app is to have an engaged user base. But it's also very important to have growth to achieve that virality so that you become successful. And this is where Yammer can help you. So Yammer already has an already large user base that you can just immediately have access to. When you start integrating your applications, you will have that social fabric that Yammer provides for enhanced communication. But before I start all of this, let me just kind of like settle the pace here. I'm going to talk a few minutes about Yammer as a product, what it does, just very briefly. But where I want to concentrate is diving a little bit into the code of a Windows Phone 8 app, breaking that code and making it work again, to show you how we integrate into a Yammer API. In the end, we're going to mention a little bit about some SDK that we're trying to release, hopefully next week through NuGet, so that all of the stuff that I'm going to show today is going to be part of that SDK, and it's going to simplify everyone's lives, hopefully. All right, having said that, so Yammer, how many of people here have heard about Yammer before? Great, that's great. And how many people have used Yammer? Okay, that's awesome. So maybe I shouldn't spend too much time here. You know how to sign in. You have to use your corporate email. It won't take Yahoo or Gmail domains. It has to be your enterprise email. The way Yammer organizes its users is by private networks. A private network is basically a logical representation of your entity. But we also have external networks where we allow people from different companies to interact. And once you log in, this is a little bit how your homepage looks. Well, the product is actively changing, so there are a few elements that may look different today. This was taken 2 weeks ago, but as we have daily releases, there are a few styling things that are changing. But mainly, this is what you see. You have the publisher at the top. You have the feed on the main, the central part of the page. And that's where all the user content or user-generated content starts appearing. And then you have the groups. You can group your conversations in specific topics. We have the all company feed, which is the main one, where everything usually goes unless you go into a group or select a specific group where you want to start posting your messages. It's very similar to other social networks out there for the public. So when you go into a group, you also have the feed, very similar to the old company feed. There are a few changes here as compared to the feed. You have the conversation, you have the information for the group, you have the members, and files and notes. Well, files and notes are available in every feed, including the old company feed. Then you have the group members. We usually show about 16 maximum, and then you have to click on them to show if there are more than 16 users, but you all probably all know about that. Just trying to go as fast as possible here. Now, what's interesting in Yammer, and this is probably one of the points where enabling this platform, is that we have an activity stream, and we offer an app directory. So what is that activity stream? The activity stream is based on a standard, the Open Graph object. And whenever a user generates content, either through Yammer itself or through different apps, this activity stream is updated with that activity. So regardless of the activity stream can be focused on a specific group, but usually it's generic unless you select the private feature of it. And that keeps your user engaged and informed about what other people are doing. Now, we have built a few apps, a few native apps that I just want to show one of them. This is the Windows 8 app. Has any of you played with the Windows 8 app from Yammer? No? And well, if you go into the let me just change this. There seems to be a problem with the marketplace right now. So if you go to the Market Store or the App Store in Windows, you'll see that there is already a few apps out there outside Microsoft that are using Yammer as a platform. Now, talking specifically about the application that we've created, it's a very simple application. It doesn't provide the full functionality of what you see on the web, but that's the intention of it. We don't want to give you, we don't want to spend too much time on this. We want to give you the ability to create things that are actually filling the needs that you have. So you can see on the left-hand side, there is the menu. You can have the inbox, notifications, groups, and all of that. So we also have a Windows Phone 8 app. I cannot demo it here because I don't have the right device. I think it's a bit more complete in features than the Windows 8 app. And there is also a Yammer chat that someone else from outside did for the Windows Phone 8 platform, which is very nice. Allows for immediate real-time communications. Now, why does Yammer exist? Why don't we need to use an additional communication? Why don't we just stay with email? Yammer is not really a replacement for email, but it complements email. Yammer offers an additional enhanced channel of communication to engage all of the personnel at the company to actively or proactively work on different projects, products, discover content. So that's the main advantage and the differentiator of Yammer. It's an open platform. It encourages transparency from top down. And that's where you can leverage the platform as well. So talking about the apps, Yammer, as I mentioned before, has an app directory. What this means is that when you create an app that satisfies a specific need on your corporation, well, guess what? Maybe another corporation is having the same problem, so you can offer this as a solution to them through the Yammer app directory. There is a certification process, some paperwork to fill out. We're not going to be talking about that in this presentation, but I just want you to know that that exists. And most likely, if you have solved a problem in your company, there are other companies that are also using Yammer that have the same or similar problem. So let's go through the flow of how to create a new app. First of all, you obviously have to sign up with your corporate email. Well, it's not really necessary, but they recommend that you upload a photo in your profile and then register your Yammer app. So let me show you on what this means on the browser. Oops, wrong page. So I created this fictitious company called Yammer Connections, and this is me. If you go on the top menu, right-hand side, there's this More menu, and then you can go into Created Apps. So when you click there, you see I have already a few apps created. I'm just going to create a new one just to go through the full exercise of creating a new app, even in the code. I'm just going to give it a name. This is going to be Build Talk 2014. Yammer Connections as the organization, support email, Yammer connections as well. The website, you don't necessarily need to have a website, so I'm just going to enter a fictitious one for now. Oh yeah, I need to agree to the terms of service. I click on continue, and that's it. My application has been created. I mean, from a platform perspective, I'm now able to create an application outside Yammer that will connect to Yammer using the information here. So the client ID is probably one of the most important things on this page. Is how your application will be identified in Yammer. If you give this away, anyone can impersonate your application, and that obviously is not a good thing to do. And the client secret is only to obtain tokens. We'll talk about that a little bit later. One thing that is missing here is the expected redirect. If you are building a Windows 8 or Windows Phone app, it is important to have that, as this is how your application can be called from anywhere in the system. So I'm going to go to basic information. And in here, I'm going to create a protocol for my application. So I'm going to do a lowercase build talk 2014 sample app. So if you notice, how many of you are familiar with protocols in Windows apps? So this is just a simple way that the platform allows you to, or enables you to call your application from a command line or from the browser or from anywhere where you can have a link to click on. This is equivalent to like email to column / or file column / It's basically the same meaning. So I'm going to save that. And we are pretty much complete with the requirements to create a new application. So once we register the app, it's just what I showed. We need to, as I mentioned, obtain the client ID, secret ID, the secret. And then the way to authenticate your application in Yammer is using OAuth. Has any one of you used OAuth in the past? Awesome, that's a pretty good start. So same as Facebook, same as with Google, that's what we use, that open standard. And this is a little bit how the collection of calls look from a browser perspective. So the first time we call, or we try to engage a user, we have to redirect them to this URL where we're going to be passing the client ID, the redirect URI that's saying that we registered in the website, and then a token. The token is not like an explicit requirement, but it's good to have it there simply because of allows you to follow a state as you go through the flow. Then this will ask the user, it will present the user a very similar screen as what you can see on Facebook when you are connecting to different apps, just asking them if they want to authorize this application. And then the moment they click yes, you're going to get a code on that redirect URI that will allow you to start sending applications to Yammer. Oh, sorry, sending API calls to Yammer directly. And then to get something that is very important is you need to get that token for the user that authorized your application, and that's the last URL there. Using the code that you receive on the redirect call, you're going to include that at the end of that call, and then as a return, you're going to get, as part of the body, you're going to get JSON with a token. That token is very precious, because that's basically what's telling who your user is and if he's authorized to post to Yammer. All right, so enough talking about this. Let's go into the code and show how all of this works. So I'm going to run an emulator with this is an application that I previously created. So I'm going to first show how it works, and then we're going to go into the code, break a little bit, change things, and then try to make it work again. So this is my user. I input my password. Then it's going to be redirecting me to that dialog that I mentioned. So I'm going to connect to my network. Then I'm going to click on Login. This is going to do some stuff on the back end of Yammer. In this case, I had already approved the application because this is the demo that I had before. So there is no additional authorization screen. I can go directly into the app. But now let's break things a little bit. Let's change that client ID and secret ID on the code and see what happens there. So let's see. So on the Windows phone app, what I have is on the SAML itself of the application file, I created this auth client info and Yammer-based URIs. The important one right now is this one here. So I'm going to change this client ID, and the secret and the redirect URI with the information that I input on the website. So we're going to go back to Build Talk 2014. I'm going to copy and paste this. The client secret. And then the redirect URI. Now remember, this value is going to become important just in a few minutes. So, okay, I changed everything according to my new app. I'm going to build. Build succeeded, and then I'm going to launch. So apparently nothing changed. Let's try it. So I log into my network. But now it's asking me if I want to allow the application. So we're missing a few steps here because the emulator has been running all the time, so it's caching some of the information. So I'm going to deny. I'm going to close the emulator, launch it again, and we should see the full flow. And then, this is something new, right? Search for app in the store. This is what I mentioned a few minutes ago, that this is where the protocol is important and where the protocol plays a role here. So remember that redirect URI that I mentioned? Since I changed it, when I rebuild the application, recompile the application and relaunch it, that protocol went missing. So the application, well, it's not that the protocol went missing. Let me correct that. As part of the redirect, it's using a new protocol, but I didn't update my application to respond to that protocol. So now it's the OS is asking me if I want to look for that application. So the way to fix that is by changing the manifest file. So I'm going to close the emulator. So if we go to the manifest file, this guy here, and then we open it on the text editor. Oops, wrong button. And then we are going to look for the protocol. Am I on the right file? Here, protocol name. So this is referring to the old protocol. Now what I'm going to do is take this new protocol, which is just the first part of it. Update my manifest. Let's remove that extra space. I'm going to build again. OK, build succeed, and I'm going to launch the emulator. So this is going to take a few seconds. There you go. All right, so the application is launched again. So I input my credentials. Since the emulator restarted, IE wants to reconnect. Let's log in to Yammer. Oops. There you go. All right, so now it's asking me, after I log in, it's asking me if I want to authorize this application, which I'm going to say yes. And there you go. Now I'm back into the application. So that was easy, right? Well, not really, but but that is the point of the SDK we're going to be talking later on. So going back to my presentation. So we've analyzed this flow. We did a little demo about it. Now the important bit, the API. So we classify our API into these different buckets. So we have the autocomplete, which provides socially relevant information to your users as they type. You can send AJAX requests in the web, or you can send asynchronous requests through the application to get information that is relevant to what they are typing. Messages, which is to retrieve or send messages from and to Yammer. Attachments, in case you want to upload files. Then there is the search, also to search socially relevant content in the network. And notifications. So notifications, whenever you receive, as you've seen, many of you have seen, whenever you receive a new message in your inbox or someone mentions you, you get the notifications. So these are the main buckets on our API. Now, as with any public API, we need to enforce rate limits to prevent abuse. So the rate limits will be enforced per user on your application. There are four main, among the different APIs, we bucket them into four different rate limits. So for autocomplete, which is one of the most common calls, we have 1 request per second or up to 10 requests per 10 seconds. So if you start sending requests too fast and you get to 10 in 5 seconds, the API is going to block you. Messages, since messages usually take a little longer, just writing the message takes a few seconds, we allow up to 1 request per 3 seconds or 10 requests per 30 seconds. Notifications is on the same limit, 1 request per 3 seconds up to 10 per 30 seconds. It's the same. You can place 10 requests in 3 seconds. It will allow you to do that, but then any further request is going to be denied until 30-second time frame has elapsed. And then any other API calls will be in the other bucket, which is the same as the autocomplete, 1 request per second or up to 10 per 10 seconds. So when you exceed those API rates, you will start getting 429s as part of the response code whenever you place an API call. So you have to just be a little mindful of that. Now let's talk about activity streams and Open Graph objects, which is the main way to integrate your application into Yammer. So Open Graph objects are the standard that we use to embed Yammer actions like and follow to send activity to the stream that I showed you earlier. And basically to maintain your user base engaged and having that generation of content, which is vital in a social network, active. So why do we use Open Graph? It's an open standard. I think anyone in this room understands the standard. They have probably used it somewhere else, like in Facebook or in any other platform. So why not? So talking about activities, the activities in Yammer take this form. We have an actor, we have the action, we have the object, and then the app name and a message. So for instance, we have John Doe created sales contracts and Yammer activities, scale a new activity as part of the message. So all of this information that I'm talking about, we have a website that you can refer to in case you have any more use cases that we may not cover today. So that's developer.yammer.com/opengraph. And this is basically how the JSON representation looks. This is what you embed into your body when you send a post request to that API URL. It's pretty much the information that we discussed in the previous slide. We have the actor, we have the object with all the data. We have the message and the users. Message and users are optional parameters. And then there is one parameter that I didn't mention there, that is the private. It's a Boolean. If you put that private parameter as part of the JSON and put it as true, then your activities will be private to only the people that are mentioned in the users argument. All right, so let's talk a little bit about how we are going to be sending Open Graph objects on the application. So let's go back to Visual Studio. Let me stop the application. And all right, so well, something I'm not mentioning is how things are connected to the views. That's because I'm not pretty good at design, but I'm using a third-party tool that allows me to enable the MVVM pattern on this application. So I like to concentrate more on really the wires of the API rather than how to update the views. All right. So this screen is basically showing my user profile picture, my name, my title, and then there is this text box with activity title, message, and then if I scroll down, there are 3 different options as radio buttons and then a create button. So going back to my profile on the web, that's me. So nothing is happening, nothing recent. So I'm gonna say build. I'm gonna create a new activity called build update, a message. We're talking about Open Graph objects and activities. And then I'm gonna select as the type of activity that I want, update. We're gonna discuss a little bit more about what that means. Then I click create, so this is gonna send that Open Graph object, it sent it. I know the UI is terrible, I'm not good at designing. And then here you have in the activity list, you have that new build update that is showing on that UI in the application. And if we go to the website, usually it takes a few minutes or a few seconds to appear. So we have, as part of the body, there you go, as part of the body of the feed, now you have the new activity posted there. And then on the activity stream is also there. And if I click on that build update title in either of them, this is going to take me to the actual Open Graph object inside Yammer. So in here, you can start full conversations once you are there. You can, oh, what did I do? Okay, I press price, yeah. So you can start sharing these objects, pretty much treat them as anything else on Yammer and build interactions around them. Now, how did that happen on the web, on the code? So let's just stop the app, and let's move to the specific creation logic. Let me do this. Is this clear enough, or can everyone see this? Yeah? Okay. Is it better? Okay, perfect. Let me see if I can put this on full screen. Oops, wrong button. All right, so this method here is hooked to the create button. And there's some UI logic to start with to disable things, but then what we are doing is we are grabbing the current user principal. So that object is part of the SDK, and it's going to contain all the credentials, the token, and anything that the API requires to communicate freely with Yammer. And then we have this activity generator, this is just part of the application, which what it does is it's just some boiler code that allows me to create the activities, and I'm going to show you in a few seconds. And then you saw that server type, phone type, and update type radio buttons on the UI. So what that is defining is the type of app, the type of actions that we can that we can use to engage our users. So talking about actions, let me just see. I just realized that my deck's a little out of order. Okay. Well, talking about those actions, if we go to if we go to that developer website that I mentioned, there are some native actions that are supported by the platform and native object types. So these are the actions. Let me increase that. So natively, Yammer supports create, update, delete, follow, and like, as I mentioned before. And then the object types are page, place, person, department, team, blah, blah, blah. You can also have custom objects and actions. We're going to discuss this in a few minutes. So going back to the code, I selected the update type of action. And this generator just allows me to create that activity user. The activity user is part of the SDK as well, so you don't have to worry about creating those models. And in there, what I'm doing is, let me stop the application. So what I'm doing here is filling in the information for that activity user, and then filling in the information for the Open Graph. You can see the title, the type, description, and the image. The image is something that is, not the image, sorry, the URL is something very important because that's basically how we are going to be identifying your Open Graph objects. And then we create this additional model that is called activity envelope, which is what wraps everything together before we serialize that into a JSON form and send it as part of the body on the API. So that's how we build the model. But now we need to send it, right? So we are doing two things, if you remember. We are posting a message into Yammer, and we are also submitting the activity. So these are two different API calls. So if we go into the send message API, what's happening here is we create the body of the message, which is basically taking the same message as the Open Graph object. We are adding that title, which is the same title as the Open Graph object. Then we have the type. We enable the type for which is the same Open Graph object type. Description, image, URL, user, and the users. In this case, we're not sending any users because we are not enabling that type of interaction. If we have time, I'll show a little bit how to bring those users from a user. So that's basically how our message object is composed. And then we have a message repository, which is part of the SDK that will do all the transactions for you. You just have to call the post message async method from that repository with the message object, and then it will do all of the API negotiations for you. It will also, one thing about the SDK is that since we perfectly know the API rate limits, we do some logic around whenever an application is hitting too often Yammer. So it will allow you it will allow your application to keep working without kind of like interrupting the workflow of your user. And in the background, it will do some retry logic to try to get that object or that message to Yammer. So I'm going to put a breakpoint here. Then I'm going to launch the application again. Oops. Errors. Let's put this back. Let's see. I'm going to build. All right, there you go. So something that I didn't enable on the application was a way to check the isolated storage of the device to make sure that your user is logged in. That's why it's asking me all the time. That's something very easy to add. So I'm going to create a new type of activity. It's going to be another update. This message was sent through Yammer connections. Update, create. So there we go. We're hitting that message repository endpoint. And then this is the object, just having all the information there. And then when I hit F10, it's going to send. It's using the asynchronous pattern from .NET 4.5, which is nice. And then here we go to the actual call to create that activity. So since we are using a native action on our Open Graph, which is the update action, this will work as expected. There won't be any problems. So if I press F10, there you go, it's sent. I don't have any people that I want to add to the Open Graph, so this will just keep going, do a little bit of UI, a little bit of UI logic there, and this is a new activity. And if we go to the website in a few seconds, that's going to be there. Now let's try something different. I want to send a message like server failure. Let's say that you are part of the IT team and you want to make sure that whenever there's a failure, you get the whole team notified and create an activity to, if you know maybe something more, you can share that as part of the activity. So please check server 01. Just as an example, this is going to be a server ticket. Now before I do any further, I'm going to put a breakpoint here. And I'm going to send this activity. So the message, because it doesn't have knowledge of whether the Open Graph is valid or not, will be posted. No problems there. But when I get to the Open Graph and I try to post that type of activity, I get an exception. And that is because I'm not using a native activity. So what I need to do is go back to the, I'm just going to go back here for a second. You need to go back to your website, to your homepage or the create application page. So go to the information of your application, this guy. And then in Open Graph, we need to create a namespace, and then we can create the object type and the action type. So I'm just going to copy what I have on the code. Let me close this. It's just here. So my namespace is build activities. I'm going to change it because it's going to collide with the previous application. I'm going to put name it build activities 2. And I'm going to create that namespace as part of my Open Graph definition. Okay, it was accepted. If it is not accepted, if you get a collision, you get notified. Like for instance, I'm going to put it as it was, as the other application is using it, build activities. So it's going to tell me that namespace is not available, pretty much. And then I need to create an activity type. So we have two, server and phone ticket. Server. And I also want to create a type. Server. So these are the type of verbs that we support, singular form and plural form. Sorry, we need to specify the singular form and plural form of the object, and then the verbs go in the action, and then servers. Present tense mag is this is an alert. Mike is alerting. Alerted. All right, so once we have those defined there, we save them. You'll see them at the top there. And then we go back to the code. I change this. Okay, should work. I launch the application. I log into my account. All right, and then server failure, create a new ticket. Please check server 1. It's going to be a server ticket. I'm going to create that. I'm going to get there, and this time this should work. Oops, I missed something. That is what happens when you do live coding in a presentation. So let's see, build activities 2. I have a server type. have an alert. Well, we're running out of time. I'm not going to be able to debug this, but I'm going to put the sample application with the code working later on Codeplex. We talk about autocomplete. This is what I was mentioning, that my deck was a little bit out of order. So talking about the Yammer SDK, so all of that interaction that I show, most of the negotiations with the API will be done through the SDK. This SDK will be compatible with both Windows 8 applications and Windows Phone applications. It will try to ease everyone's life as far as the OAuth process that we have in Yammer, and as you saw, sending messages, sending open graphs, and even reading messages and uploading files. So we are trying to get this out through NuGet next week. I'm gonna put that on the Codeplex site. I think we have that here. Sorry, we're just running out of time. So these are the websites where you can check the information. I'm going to go back to the NuGet site later. These are the websites where you can get more information about the specific SDKs in case you have any more questions or while you are developing. This is the more generic sites for the API documentation. There is also a Yammer developer community network. Whenever you have questions that are not answered by the documentation there, you can post them there. We have additional platform SDKs, iOS, JavaScript, Ruby, Python. All of this is going to be in the deck. You can access the deck through, I think, channel 9. I didn't put my channel 9. But if you have any questions about any of the stuff we talk, you can email me or Twitter me. But in the meantime, are there any questions about what we talked today I may be able to answer right now? We have a few minutes left, like 5 minutes. Yeah. Do you mind if you go to the microphone so that it gets...
Is there any way to customize the Yammer's enterprise company network? So, in the beginning, you showed a private company network. Mm-hmm. On that network, so for instance, on the right panel, I want to include the recent activities from my SharePoint intranet. How would I do that? Or is there a way to do that right now?
I don't think there is a specific way to do it right now. It will be just generic. I mean, if your SharePoint web part is already hooked up to Yammer, then it will start just pumping that information into the activity stream. But yeah, it's not customized in that sense. I think that's something that's going to come in the future, but I don't have a roadmap to give you right now.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else?
Is there an easy way to integrate the Yammer with the Azure Mobile Services, the authentication part?
So you mean from a server perspective?
Yeah. The redirect URI goes to the Azure Mobile Service?
Yeah, there is a way. That is not going to be included in the SDK because the SDK is kind of like geared towards user applications. But if you go into the documentation page, there is a specific section that talks about how to do the backend authentication.
Okay, thanks.
Anyone else? All right, well, you have my details. Thank you very much all for coming, and well, keep enjoying Build. And I hope you are having a great time. Thank you.